Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well today. This reading is going to be for one of my patrons, Eve, who has been a patron of mine for a long time. And she is pledging on my Patreon page. That's the way to get into these monthly lottery draws. So if you're interested, please visit my Patreon page and pledge $2, $4, or $9. If you pledge $2, your name gets added once. If you pledge $4, you'll be added twice, so you have a double chance, and you also receive a written reading. And by pledging $9, you receive a short video reading each month, and you have a triple chance of winning. So, in this reading, we are just going to allow the cards to basically guide us on what needs to be discussed today. So this is going to be a freestyle reading in that sense. And this is definitely one of my favorite reading formats because it's just so unrestrained, and there's it feels more like a dialogue with the tarot than anything else. So I hope, Eve, you're going to enjoy it. And if anybody else decides to stick around and watch the reading unfold with us, then I hope you guys are going to enjoy it too. Okay. So I'm going to pick one card to establish the topic of today's reading. What does Eve need to know about today? Okay. So, we've got the Page of Swords for you, Eve. And the Page of Swords represent the mind, the air element, and pages always represent the initial learning stages of a process. So what this card represents is learning, a new perspective, a new way of thinking, and accommodating or adapting rather to a new theory. So this reading is going to be about the process of learning, how you can learn to adapt new ways of thinking, new ways of processing information, selecting, organizing, and interpreting information in a way that is going to bring you more success and more happiness. First of all, I think with the Page of Swords, it's important to note that this is a card of humility. Every page is about accepting our position as a student, accepting that we might not know everything about everything, and especially for qualified people, people who are actually knowledgeable about a lot of stuff, intelligent people, academics. This might be a painstaking process, but it is absolutely necessary. And in your case, it's no different. This card is asking you to consider the possibility that there's something out there that you don't know everything about. In fact, there's something out there that could help you a great deal, that could transform your life in a very positive way. But in order for that to happen, you would need to assume the position of the student. So you would need to drop everything that you're an expert in. I'm sure you have a lot of different things that you're skilled at, things that you're studying or the field that you're working in. This card is asking you to drop those things, at least mentally, at least for now. And warm up to the possibility that in the near future you can have an opportunity to learn something entirely new that is obviously going to put you in a beginner position, but it's going to be worth it. The Page of Swords is kind of like a sponge for new information. There's a curiosity, an openness to the Page of Swords that creates space and room for learning, for new information and new paradigms to come into the picture. So, an opportunity is on the horizon for you to learn something new. Let's see what that could be. What is that related to, or what are we exactly talking about? Oh, and we have the sun. What a beautiful, lively, vibrant card. Even though this entire deck is centered around the theme of death, because it's the Santa Muerte tarot. So it has to do with the concept of mortality. But still, it's a celebration of life, this card. So, I'm feeling like we should pick some more cards. Let's see what would facilitate this learning process. Okay. And what may stand in the way of this learning process? Okay. And finally, a card to see what exactly you can take away from this process. In what way can you be transformed as a result of this learning? All right. So let's see what facilitates this process. The world. Very good. Another major arcana card. What can stand in the way? The moon. Interesting. Okay. The sun and the moon. And the end result is death. Santa Muerte. So, in this little reading, we have 4 major arcana cards, which is immediately telling me that there's something deep going on. That this learning is not... It's not exactly learning how to do origami or how to cook a new meal. It's not one of those surface level skills that, still are valuable and interesting and can potentially make your life better. But it's a deeper sort of learning. And I'm getting the sense that this learning is actually aimed at a complete restructuring of your cognitive structures, of your cognitive framework, perhaps your entire worldview, because the end result is death. So the end result is the final stage of an era, of a chapter, and beginning a new one. So it's a complete and serious radical change that cuts to the core of your being. So it's not like, changing your hair color or deciding to buy a different brand of cigarettes. It cuts deep. It goes really deep, and it works via the air element. So it works on an intellectual level. And the first thing that popped into my mind looking at these cards was the concept of neuroplasticity, which I am not an expert, so I think it's best if you look it up, but I'm gonna do my best to try and explain it the way I understand it. It's basically the brain's ability to its flexibility and its adaptivity to new situations, and it's the way the brain can be retrained and transformed by introducing new habits and new ways of thinking into your life. So it's a very serious thing, because if you utilize neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to sort of reprogram these neural pathways and activate new parts and almost new genetic code, in a way, new parts of your genetic structures by exercising new ways of living. So you can make some serious changes to your reality by utilizing these techniques. And my first thought was cognitive therapy, or adapting some techniques of cognitive therapy. So you don't necessarily have to go to therapy, although I think most people could benefit from cognitive therapy because it's not invasive at all. You don't need to take any medication. It's not really about delving into your traumas. It's more about learning new ways to think. And that's where the Page of Swords comes in, I think. It doesn't have to be this. I'm just giving you an example to shine some light on the nature of how these cards play out, in my opinion, in this reading. Basically, you're learning about the vitality and the resilience that resides within you. The sun represents a never-ending, theoretically never-ending, boundless source of energy, solar energy, that is the absolute prerequisite for any sort of life on this earth. And so it's very basic and primal, but it's also absolutely essential. And it's this baseline creativity and resilience that we as human beings have ingrained within us. And by utilizing your intellectual power, you're making contact with this very genuine and very deep and archaic part of yourself that can be best described as a solar sort of joy and the motivation to survive no matter what. And the Page of Swords has the attitude of making this bridge, of making this connection with the sun within in a very intellectual way. So by reading about it, reading about new ways of just being and thinking, and working with those intellectual concepts that you already know and have as part of your daily thinking routine, but perhaps using those vehicles of thought to take you somewhere else, to learn to think in a different way. And this could also be meditation. So now I'm also thinking that meditation could also fit into this picture. Just training your brain to think a different way. And actually, the world is facilitating this process. So when you have the world in your corner on a journey like this, that's incredibly powerful. And I'm thinking that the pathway forward is going to be shown to you in very clear terms, in various synchronistic events and clues, perhaps even direct events and people popping up in your life, showing you the way telling you about books or courses or lectures that you should listen to, stuff like that. So the universe is on your side, and the universe is trying to teach you. And you don't necessarily have to go out and look for these different ways of thinking that you're supposed to be learning about. They are going to be revealed to you. All you need to do is listen and watch and observe and remain open. So basically your whole role in this is to remain open to these radically new perspectives, perhaps. And also, another important point to make here is to stay logical. So use logic, use your ability to analyze and interpret things with the help of your common sense, because here's what can stand in your way, and that's the moon. Now, the moon is a card of creativity, imagination, intuition, but also a lack of clarity, a lack of I guess obvious and well-defined categories. With the moon, everything is just all over the place. It's chaos, it's confusion, it's poetic, it's beautiful, but it's very disorganized. So it's kind of this dream state where you can get lost. And sometimes you need this energy, but on this journey, it's only going to stand in your way. And the Page of Swords has this very sober, very meticulous and diligent way of just separating and organizing and categorizing things according to the rules of just common sense and logic and rational thought. So it's very important to keep in mind that the irrational can only stand in your way on this journey. Simplify things. I think the Page of Swords is also about that, just to be simple in your thinking and what you accept to be true. Just use Occam's razor to cut through any shady or complicated, intricate dream realities that you might have created or other people are trying to create for you. Use your rational thinking and use it in a way that is adaptive. So your ability to be logical and to see the connections between things and to be able to infer the rules and to understand the causalities of events or different entities of thought is there, but you also need to be able to connect with new ways of thinking while keeping your baseline attitude of only accepting what aligns with rational thought. There's no need for any extreme and grandiose stories. You can get to the bottom of the truth and you can have an incredible transformation just by following the simple rules of logic and your common sense. And in this transformation is pretty deep, because it's completely rewriting and rearranging who you are in the long run. So everything that you're doing now, the teachers and the courses that you accept during this time, you get to choose what you want to learn about, and the world is going to show you what you need to learn about. But ultimately, you are making the decision. And I think the decision needs to be made on what's more simple, what rings more true, what requires, less of a leap of faith to believe on your part, because that's, different for everybody. And what's the course of action, or what's the pathway here that seems the most rational? What's taking you closer to the pure, naked truth of existence? And what's only there to confuse you and lead you astray? If you stick to simplicity, you will be able to find the pathway forward. And the world is also, like I said, on your side. And so it seems like a very deep process that has a potentially long-lasting effect on the person you are. So it seems like an exciting time for you. I wish you good luck. Thank you very much for supporting me. And I hope you all are going to have a good night's sleep or a good day. And I hope to see you in my next video.